very, from time to time, really is a very important subject, and we are honored to have His Honor Judge Dr. Majid Shebaita, who is Vice President of the Egyptian State Council and also a member of the Egyptian, what is it called? محكمة تجارية، محكمة دستورية.
Administrative Court.
Administrative Court, المحكمة الإدارية Administrative Court. In addition, he was a constituent member of the, or a member of the Constituent Assembly that drafted 2012 Egyptian Constitution. He had a PhD from Cairo University. It was all about Constitution again. LLM from Alexandria University in Islamic law. And now he's a student of LLM in Queen Mary's College. And in addition to this, another PhD student in Cairo University. So in addition to all his judiciary and activities, he combines all these roles very ably and successfully. And I'm sure he will enlighten us on the role of the Islamic law in the Egyptian Constitution. Bismillah.
First, I would like to thank Professor Khalim and Professor Hannah for inviting me for this session. And thank you for coming as well. This lecture is not a political one at all, so don't take my words as politics. It's not about just merely legal and Islamic lecture, or maybe this splendid one. Before I begin, I would like to apologize for my English, not to the level as yours, of course, so be patient with me. Okay.
I use Arabic sometimes.
If I use Arabic, some of the audience will understand and others will not. So, there were a debate, we can say struggle, between the conservatives and the liberals regarding Islamic articles in the Egyptian Constitution. And this debate appeared clearly after the Arab Spring. In Arab Spring? Sure? Can anybody tell me when it began and where?
Tunisia,
Yes?
and then Egypt, and then Libya.
Yeah, Syria, etc. The debate regarding to the Islamic articles in the Arab constitutions as well. It is not only debate in Egypt only, but as well that its impact on Tunisia, Libya, and Syria, and etc.
What very important.
Whether it shall be a religion of the state has to be mentioned in the constitution or not. The conservative and liberals, it is not merely social talking or social debate, no. It has its impact on the court judgments and the actions of the government as well. From the liberal point of view, or secular, they have opinion that there must be no mention of religion in the constitution. It must be secular state, as they see that in order to mention a religion in the constitution, now you turn the state to be a theocratic state or religious state, as the Iranian module. But the conservatives have a different approach. They thought that you must mention and clarify at their culture the Islamic article in the Constitution. So I will begin the lecture with 3 questions. That's why the Constituent Assembly of 2012 adopt the conservative approach of Islamic law in the Constitution. The second question, is it really against democracy to have a religion in the Constitution or not? Or we have another examples in the West, European democracy, that already have religion in the Constitution. The last question is very important for us. What about the non-Muslim community? I mean the Christians and Jews. Do they really affected by the Islamic law, or they have their own law which apply to their affairs? Especially in the family law. Shall be they bounded by the Islamic law, or they are freely to be governed by the Bible, I mean? In 1971 Constitution Act, because I will now talking about court decision, I would like to first clarify that we have 3 types of courts in Egypt. Not only at the common law courts, we have different kind of our civil law country. So we have constitutional court, high constitutional court, and an ordinary courts, I mean civil and criminal courts, headed by the Court of Cassation, okay? And I have administrative court, headed by the High Administrative Court. Each type of this court can issue final and binding judgments. So there will be final judgment from the Court of Cassation and from the High Administrative Court and the High Constitutional Court. So there is no court higher than another. All those courts can issue a res judicata. You know what res judicata? Res judicata is a Latin word, legal Latin word. It means that final and binding decision which can be reviewed by another court. In 1971 Constitution, Article 2 mentioned that the general principles of Islamic Sharia is the main source of law.
The general principle, can you say that again, please?
The general principles of the Islamic Sharia is the main source of law.
Yes.
Okay?
المصدر الرئيسي سيدنا
Exactly.
مبادئ الشريعة الإسلامية هي المصدر الرئيسي للدستور للقانون.
And this article at this time made a huge debate among the jurisprudence and judicial judgments. The first debate whether the speech of the Constitution is forward to the Parliament to adopt the principles of the Islamic Sharia in the statutes, or for the courts as well to apply the Islamic Sharia directly, meaning that the courts can refrain from applying a law if it is contradict with the Constitution. If it is against Sharia, it will be against the Constitution for the Article 2. So the courts, while they're applying the Constitution hierarchy, constitutional law and regulations, if they find that there is a law which against Islamic Sharia, can refrain from applying the law as it will be contradicted with Islamic Sharia. Recently, the Administrative Court of Appeal ruled that in 2015, the court refused to apply an interest rate article in the Civil Law Code as it is against the Islamic Sharia. And they said clearly that the court is obliged to apply the law and the Constitution as well. So in this case, I will not apply this code, this article, Article 227 of the Civil Law Code, as it is contradictory with the Islamic Sharia. But frankly speaking, the overwhelming decision of the courts refused this approach of the High Administrative Court and said that this speech is for the Parliament only, and the courts have no right to refrain from applying any statute unless the Constitutional Court rules that these provisions is unconstitutional as they contradict with the Constitution. The second, and is the most important point here, the second debate with the meaning of the general principles of Islamic Sharia, of Article 2, 1971, which I have mentioned. The Constitutional Court adopts an interpretation of the Islamic articles, the principles of Islamic law, meaning the principles which are not be able to be interpreted and in no doubt to be attributed. We all know that the two main sources of Islamic Sharia is Quran and Sunnah. Okay, all the provisions of Quran are attributed to Allah as the word of God, and the Sunnah there is sometimes can be attributed to the Prophet and sometimes not. So, in order to adopt the principles which cannot be able to be interpreted, most of or the majority of the provisions of Quran and Sunnah can be interpreted in different meanings, and it have different meanings already. And to be attributed to Allah or the Prophet, it is meaning that we narrow the meaning of Islamic Sharia to a very, very small area. That's why here the Constitutional Court adopt the liberal approach of meaning of Islamic law, which narrowing it to one point, which it is very few articles in Quran and Sunnah which can be applied. And the consequence of this is seldom to find that the Constitutional Court rule or annul any law basing on the contradict Islamic Sharia. On the contrary, it happened that, do you remember the interest rate judgment of what I said about High Administrative Court? Here, the High Constitutional Court refused to annul Article 227 of the interest rate because of its conflict with the Islamic Sharia, as it is not interpreted and not clearly attributed to Quran and Sunnah. That's why they refuse to annul the law. A completely contradict approach adopted by the High Administrative Court and Court of Cassation as well. They have another meaning of general principles of Islamic law, and they said that the general principles of Islamic law mean the Islamic Sharia itself. All the rules of the Islamic Sharia itself is the general principles of Islamic Sharia, not just the regular approach or non-attributable or non-interpreted principles as the Constitutional Court said. This contradict of judgments is not merely theoretically contradict, no. It has its impact. For example, the Constitutional Court ruled that both hijab and niqab are subject to restrictions as they reflect a certain religious belief. As a contrary to this, the High Administrative Court ruled that the administration, meaning the government, has no right to restrict the wearing of hijab and niqab as they are Islamic clothes for women and no one can deny it. So we have two final and binding decisions from two high courts regarding the meaning of Islamic law. What is Islamic law? According to the Constitutional Court, there is no clear guidelines for what is Islamic law. According to the Court of Cassation and High Administrative Court, it is clearly for them that the principles of Islamic law means the Islamic law itself, not just a very few principles. That's why in the Constituent Assembly it appeared for us when I were in the Constituent Assembly that the word of general principles of Islamic law is vague. It is not clear. What does it mean? Does it mean really just a few principles, or does it mean clearly the Islamic Sharia? The majority of the Constituent Assembly adopt the conservative approach of the definition to defining the general principles of Islamic law, and said in Article 219 in the Constitution of 219 is that the general principles of Islamic law mean the main sources of Islamic law and jurisprudence rules which have been accepted by the Sunnah people, which mean that Quran, Sunnah, unanimously. The first three sources and the most important sources of Islamic law, and there is no debate about the Quran and Sunnah, and you know, see other sources can be have a debate, but there is no debate on Quran and Sunnah and unanimously. So we can see that the Constituent Assembly did not create another definition from itself for the meaning of Islamic Sharia or general principles of Islamic law, but it adopted the conservative opinion of the High Administrative Court and Court of Cassation. So it is not a new brand new from the Constituent Assembly to say that. The second question is, that's for my first question, why we adopted? Because of the contradict of judgments in 1971 Constitution between the high courts, which make it vague the meaning of general principles of Islamic Sharia. Is it against democracy to mention a religion in the Constitution? We have three approaches in the word by word. I will focus on the European countries. The first approach clearly mentioning that this state is secular state, as the French Constitution said in Article 1, that the Republic of French is secular, and Turkish Constitution. The second approach in the European countries mentioning clearly that they have a religion, and the head of state must follow the religion of the country. I'll give an example for this. Article 3 of the Greek Constitution says that the prevailing religion in Greece is that of the Eastern Orthodox Church of Christ. It is a very long article, by the way, and I don't want to waste your time by reading it. It's very long. It determines not only the religion, but it determines the beliefs, and they prevent from translating another, from translating the Bible to another language except the church accepted. So it is not just a few words. These are very long articles in the Constitution theory. You should not put longer articles, but actually Article 3 of the Greek Constitution is so long, defining the meaning of Orthodox Church of Christ. Another approach is by Denmark, and Norway Constitution also said in the same article. The Lutheran Church shall be the established Church of Denmark, and as such it shall be supported by the state. So in Denmark and Norway, it is not only a religion of the king, not only just a religion of the majority of the people, of the Danish people, no. It shall be supported by the state. States are obliged to support the church, the Lutheran Church in Denmark. And a very amazing article in Iceland Constitution, Article 62. The Lutheran Church is a city church in Iceland, and as such is supported and protected by the state. And it's very important article I will say now. A person who is not a member of any religious association must pay to the University of Iceland the dues that he would have to pay to such an association if he had been a member, and this may be amended by law. This is jizya tax in the Islamic Sharia. So the Western democracy, they know religion of the state, they know jizya tax. We can't say that those countries are not democratic states. It's impossible. Why? For a very simple reason, because they are a member of the EU, and the condition to enter into the European Union is must be democratic states. That's why they refuse 30 countries from entering
EU because they are not democratic states. So it is a condition to be democratic in order to enter the EU, which means that those kind of articles are not contradict with democracy, with European democracy. And recently, the third approach, because it's very interesting. The third approach of the countries are silent, not mentioning and not denying. For example, the United States of America, they are silent, and here they are silent. There is no mention that they follow certain religion, and they're not denying that they are not following. But it appeared clearly after President Trump had been elected by the American people that he followed the church or the Christianity so clearly as last week's speech for the President Trump has been published by Reuters. He said that he would like to review the relationship between the church and the American state. He wants the church to play another political role in the United States. And before he had been elected, he said that I am the best example of Christian man who represents the Christians in the United States. It is clearly religious approach now from the president. And they have constitutional point. They have constitutional custom that the president must be Lutheran or evangelical.
Evangelical?
Yes, he must be this.
No, I don't think it can be evangelical. It's just Church of. What is the Church of the United States? They have no church, have they?
Evangelical is the third, a Catholic, Orthodox, and evangelical. Protestant. He must be Protestant.
Protestant, yes.
Okay. He can be Catholic or one time. He can be Jew. He can be Muslim. He can be anything, except when it's custom. All the American presidents were Protestant. That's why it is a customary position along that he must be.
Kennedy, I think he wasn't.
I told you one, only one.
Yeah.
That's why he did.
Kennedy,
only one throughout all the American presidents.
yeah.
Only one case that I think President Kennedy, as you said, Professor. This is an example, and we have a clear model of theocratic state. I mean the Vatican. It's held by the Pope, and it is protected by Italy and Switzerland, and the Swiss army are the army of the Swiss army guards of the head of Switzerland are the guard of the Pope. And this state have a relationship with many with many of European countries, and is a member in the UN. But the type of the member, I have no idea about, but is a member in the UN. As an observer or something like that. Which means that the entire world now accept a theocratic state, which is a Vatican, headed by the Pope. So it is not against democracy. Again, it's against democracy? No, it is not against. As the Premier must, in order to make a relation with non-democratic countries, actually it's a shame for them. The last question is, what about the Christians or the Muslim community? We have very few Jews in Egypt, but about the Muslim community, what about them? In the Constitution of 2012, it was the first constitution, not only in Egypt, but in the Middle East and I think in the world, which allow another of the minorities to be judged by their own faith. Article